Instagram going here. Perfect. I'm going to invite you here real quick, Stuart.
Oh.
Invite.
Okay.
Perfect. I'm going to turn my volume down on my phone here.
I need to do the same.
Yeah, you're going to want to do the same thing too, because it will still. Let's see. I think I could be able to mute this and not have to worry about the audio being bad or something like that. It looks like it, man. Look, we're already getting people jumping in, which is great. We have Butcher Outdoors. Man, this is what I found that really helps out drive viewer count up too as well, along with the ability to get people to like and follow. Thank you, Pat, for the wave and such. This way, make sure you guys go out and follow Stuart on his Instagram and go find him on YouTube as well. So go ahead and make sure you open up an extra tab there for YouTube. So this way you can stream and stuff like that. We're gonna have chat open on both sides. I am gonna grab Mr. Holmes's YouTube link. I'm going to throw that in the chat so this way then everybody can go over there and drop a like and subscribe. It's the way to cross promote there, folks.
Awesome.
All right, so we are recording. We are live. So thank you, Stuart, for coming on. So my name is Jeff. I'm the host of Bucks for America podcast here. I got everything up and running here. So I've been following Stuart now since, early this summer. And what caught my eye is that he's got a real good knack for explaining his videos and his bow builds. He's very articulate with it and he's very analytical in the whole process. And the fact that we both like mutual products, so that we I fed off of that. But he has got a knack for it. I mean, he's growing his YouTube following. He's growing his Instagram following. So please make sure everybody go out and like and subscribe and follow and comment. Drive the listeners and the viewership up for everybody's podcast. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Zachary. It looks like he must know you.
What's up, Zach?
Awesome, guys. So this podcast is bringing me pretty fun because now I do recommend going to go reach out and listen to Stuart's podcast on Montana Knox and Red Bearded Outdoors. So I just downloaded Red Bearded Outdoors. That came out on October 22nd, so I haven't listed that one yet. But this podcast is just going to be fun because he's already been on a couple of them. So it's going to be a good experience all the way around, man. So now I know you're a Marine. I know you've bounced around all over the country. You live in Alabama and stuff like that. Why don't you tell us what got you in the outdoors? Tell us about your roots and tell us as many stories as possible.
Yeah. So what got me into the outdoors really is my dad. I mean, growing up, I grew up in Northwest Florida, and whether it was fishing in the summertime or we actually started out duck hunting when I was little, always had a love for archery though. So kind of picked up a bow sitting around in the garage. It's like an old Bear fiberglass bow. I think I've told the story on some other podcasts before, but that was it. A handful of busted cedar arrows, and it was like a bright orange fiberglass bow. And that's where archery started for me. And just kind of grew up, got into, deer hunting with my dad through middle school, high school. And then, kind of rest is history. It's just really been a love that I've always had, man.
So now, with your videos and YouTube videos and such, can you give us some examples of your youth and what allowed your mindset to be able to break down your videos when you're talking technically to the camera about your setups and such? Can you give us some good stories from back in the day? Because you said your dad's old bow is a classic.
Yeah. So. I guess it started with how my dad taught me. I mean, he really was able to take complex parts or complex kind of situations and break them down into layman's terms so that, an 8-year-old can understand it. So, down to bow form, bow grip, arrows, why arrows fly a certain way, those types of things. And that's actually translated even into my professional life. So I'm an accountant in the real world, and I work in manufacturing, so I'm having to take numbers and financials and explain that to engineers and people that are non-financial type people. So I think it's kind of like storytelling a little bit. If people don't understand your story, they don't understand, the complexity to it, then it doesn't do any good. So I think being able to kind of break that down shows that you really understand your topic, and it's more useful for your audience as well. So.
That is a good way to put it too. I've always been able to digest a lot of information and regurgitate it. So I've been, even in my professional realm, I've been in the factory side of it, working on the floor, Now I work in IT, so it's a big transition from it. But a lot of before I got to my position, I was a trainer and I had to work with practitioners and stuff like that for LHI. With you being former military, you probably know that acronym very, very well, considering your career. Now, when did you get in? When did you decide to join the military?
So I was right out of high school. So, growing up, we didn't really have money to go to college or anything like that. So it was kind of either take out a bunch of debt or figure it out on your own. And, military kind of ran in my background, and decided to go into the Marine Corps. This was early 2000. So September 11th and all that hadn't really happened yet. So I signed up before, and it a year later or so was basically when that kind of kicked off, and I was in until, I guess it was 2006 is when I got out. So a lot of activity for sure.
Especially during that time, it was a little shitstorm from there. I mean, I watched 9/11 unfold in front of me in school and such, and a lot of folks are kind of forgotten where we once were. Now we have this divide across the country. But when it comes down to on one thing here, I want to say happy birthday to the Marines, Semper Fi. Your birthday was last week on November 10th. That is just a remarkable story. I don't know. Have you ever seen the comedian? Well, I wouldn't necessarily call him a comedian, but he's called the Fat Electrician. He's based out of Iowa. Absolutely hilarious dude. But his whole content is military. He actually breaks down all kinds of fun stuff. He talks about all different types of warfare, technology, guns, and stuff like that. I don't know. You ever come across him?
I haven't. No.
Oh, if you ever find out, I don't know I know he's on TikTok. I'm not sure if he's on YouTube or not, but the guy is just hilarious. But then again, anybody that joins the services are just have a unique sense of humor, the way to cope through things.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. You kind of have to be. I mean, you kind of learn to compartmentalize certain things and deal with it or not. And I think anybody that can make light of it and see the good parts of it, because there's a lot of good really that came out of my time in the service for sure. And something never forget it all. But yeah, 247 years, Marines, hoorah.
Yeah, exactly. It is remarkable, the whole history, like starting in a bar, obviously, and going from to where we're at today. It's like we are literally. That's like if we need something done, that's what we send out first to the Marines, and usually that's what sets the pace for the entire trend.
That's it. Older than the U.S.
That is exactly by 1 year, exactly. Now, one thing I've been paying attention to is that with the recruiting numbers, with all the branches and stuff like that. Now, what I've noticed is that what reason why those numbers are gotten of lower is because we're talking to veterans like yourself that started serving during that 1999 to 2006. Now, let's say you had a kids born just around that time. Now they're 18, 20, 21, and a lot the kids have seen what has gone on with their parents' lives and such, and it is definitely a big change from when my uncle was in the Vietnam War, my grandpa was in the Korean War and such. And so the unique thing about we're addressing everything, we're helping everybody out, but still, when it comes down to the mental health aspect inside the service, there I was listening to Aaron Ritter. He is the creator and founder of Limitless Outdoors, and he lost his leg in a motorcycle accident, not actually in the service, but he's EOD. And so he's an incredible man. But he was talking about like how his experience was like trying to go through the process of handling PTSD and opening up and talking about such a task, especially still being in the military, because certain things said could just sideline your entire career.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big transition, if people do it, is getting out and kind of going into the real world. So like, a minute ago, I mentioned I'm an accountant at a manufacturing facility and that type of thing. And it's good I didn't jump right into it, because it definitely takes you a while to kind of like reintegrate. I don't really struggle too much with certain things, but there's definitely like bits of anxiety or things that grab me from time to time. And I know, it could be from them. Then it's just something I'm not really dug too deep into really. But again, there's a lot of resilient people out there that do a lot of good. And, it sounds like that's certainly a case he is doing a lot of good.
Yeah, that is the best part about it. Now, I was talking. If you notice behind me, I have HHA USA behind me, and that's a big veteran organization with Chris Hammond, HHA USA, with HHA Sports and such. And this next upcoming year, I'm looking forward to the release of the upcoming schedule and such. I'm not sure when it's going to come out. I'm hoping it's going to be before Christmas, fingers crossed. But if you ever have a chance, I know Chris has been trying to grow it. He's doing, from what I understand, he's going to do 4 shoots this year, and he's going to do 1 out of state. Don't know exactly where it is yet, but it's going to be interesting to see what all comes out of that. But if you ever have a chance to fly up or come up and meet Chris, you will be a relationship you'll never forget.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about him and the company, even that just a lot of outreach and things that they do. It's really impressive. We don't get a lot of shoots down here in Alabama, other than we have a Foley shoot that happens, Foley, Alabama, which is not too far away. But other than that, man, I'm so jealous. I see a lot of the cool shoots you guys do up there and further out west and all that too.
Oh, definitely. I got friends of mine who were trying to hook up with the bow spider guys, the bow hitch guys, and then try to get together and do one big old fun shoot at one, whether it be a tack or a mount archery fest. But it's a lot of things got to pick and choose on what we're going to go on, because this year was a struggle for a lot of people to make these trips. But now it's like we don't know what is going to bring in for next fall and such, because the gas prices are not like they're getting any shorter. Wall Street said they're not going to allow any new drilling or anything, because Wall Street is doing a really good job of strangling that opportunity for that type of growth. Now, when it comes down to when you rotated out of the military, did you get right back into the outdoors, or did you have a pause? Because it's kind of like I've seen people with going through college, they'll forget about it and then they'll go a period of time without getting back into it.
Yeah, that's a good question. No one's really I think understood that. But yeah, I had a stint where I had to put everything aside for a few years, and while it killed you, you just kind of have to do what you got to do, right? So being oriented and knowing what you want to go to achieve, there's some sacrifices you had to make, and that was outdoors was one of them for several years.
So was it were you able to get right back into it right after you got out of the military, or did you go back to Florida? Or give us a little timeline after you got out in 2006.
Yeah, so I actually met a few guys that got into were into hunting and had contacts different places. So it wasn't like a hard start and stop. I kind of eased back into it. College took up some time and things like that, and even down here, I'd meet several guys from the South that it's in our blood. I mean, it's the heritage down here. We hunt
100%.
You know what I mean? So. It actually was, once I picked it back up, it was like I never stopped, really. So yeah.
So with all the things you do, because you've hunted elk, you've hunted whitetail, you've hunted duck and stuff like that, what has been some of your most revolutionary experiences, like some of those aha moments, or that connection between you and God? What are some of those stories?
Man, so the most recent one has got to be the elk hunt, right? So that was my first time really being out west and experiencing big country, big animals, much bigger than any of the little whitetail that we have running around down here. But I think just the whole presence and experience of that type of country, it's so big, and you realize how small you are, and it's just amazing. What we have to enjoy.
Yeah.
And, you can kind of take it for granted a little bit wherever you live, because with all the travels that I've done, and I've been to some cool places, experienced real cool things, actually, a lot of times at home, you oversee some of the beauty that's around you at home. So I go on these cool trips, I get back and I'm really appreciative of what I have here. But I think the elk hunt and hearing the bugles and just that whole experience is just amazing what we have to really enjoy and be a part of. And the other part of it is I wish I wouldn't have waited so long. I mean, I'm not old by any means, but, encourage anybody that's out there listening, like, don't wait. Figure out a way to do it. If you have to do over the counter or whatever, get out west and go experience it. It is second to none.
Oh yeah, I have friends that do the beast mode archery games here in challenges here in Wisconsin. But a big thing they're big proponents of. It's like even if you don't get a draw on a tag, it's like tag along, because the ability to be able to join in on that, and you may not have a tag, but maybe be a tag holder. But that experience in itself, because you're going to be in the shit, you're going to be learning everything that's going on. You'll be paying attention to the foliage, where they're up elevation, stuff like that. How they communicate, how they talk, and like how it really echoes through the passes in those little Hell's Canyons areas where it gets just thick between everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I got to experience some of South Dakota Hell's Canyon area with some of the guys out there, and that was another just absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's country that I just didn't even know we had. You see pictures of it, and that's one thing, but when you go out and actually see it, experience, walk it, I mean, like I said, you just realize how small you are in such a big, vast world that we have. I mean, you just have to get out and enjoy it.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I completely agree with you. Like I was talking to Zach Hansen last week. This is his book, and this is Turning Feral. Now, the book behind this right here is that he wrote this right after his divorce, and he relocated. Now, he's been able to figure out to be able to make everything low tech in a high tech world by being able to move way out into Atlanta, Idaho, and he used his experience out there to go through the highs and lows of going through the divorce and going the mental anguish, and then being able to recover and like restart a soul, like bring all those pieces together. And now he's married with 2 kids, and this is all in the matter of like a handful of years. So it's like one of the things we had mentioned is like that accelerated quickly.
No, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. So like, we're so busy with technology and work and, all the distractions that we have in the world, that getting out in nature, experiencing and doing something that, we were made to do. We were made to hunt. We were made to gather. That is, ingrained in every single, one of us. When you do that, it brings, I'm telling you, just such an inner peace and something, it just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up just talking about it. It's just amazing. And I hate to see, I hear the conversation of like, oh, well, we have too many hunters, and, Joe Rogan and whoever else has made too many hunters and all that. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? The more of a voice we have, and the more, we have in terms of conservation, the longer we get to enjoy it. And, I just encourage as many people that come and hunt. And that's kind of why I do some of the videos that I do in archery. Is archery to me is a beautiful sport, and it has a very steep learning curve. And I try to make it as simple as I can, so that people will maybe just go out and try it. And I'm sure, I'm positive, once they try it, they'll get hooked. But yeah, it's just something it's in our blood.
It's something that it releases that primal masculine energy that has kind of been lacking here. Pole and Feathers, podcast. He just joined. Hey, I just finished up your podcast with Armando. Great podcast, and he's the one that created the bow hitch, because carrying your bow literally sucks. And it's like I tell you what, it's like I was last Monday. It was a picture perfect situation here. Setting like getting back to like getting away from all your technology. I have a little piece of 2,000 acres of public land, like literally 15 minutes away. And it is so densely forested that there's no service back there. So it's like I get in, I send I plan out my journey ahead of schedule, send my wife those coordinates, so just in case if something bad happens, well, this is where he told me he was going, so hopefully this will work out. It's like, because it's like you never know what's going to happen, because the bluff country is very rugged, and it's like for folks that have hunted out west, really appreciate the driftless area that we call home here. Now, what had happened last Monday is like I decided to go out hunting. It was like first time I ever stepped foot on this property, even though I've been lived only like 15 minutes away for the last year. Drive out there, spend only an hour and 15 minutes out there. That's between when I stepped out there and last light. And I'm walking around, scoping everything out, see a lot of deer signs. Like, all right, first time here, I'm not going to go too far in. And that magic half hour. From sundown to last light. All of a sudden, I see this buck cross the top of the hill, and I'm playing the thermals in the wind like perfectly because he's coming out here. His nose is straight up in the air. It's like, oh, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. And it's like, but nope. He brought his hat back down, kept on walking down. I was like, this is perfect. So I have my bow in my hand, or on my bow hitch. I knocked an arrow, and it's almost like a single point sling. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I saw him, I quickly grabbed my bow, get it all set up and ready to. It didn't launch an arrow, but I was ready for it. I was just kind of like, I've been practicing what's going to happen with it when something does come across. And he comes out, gets within 30 yards. But the tough part about it had all these little sapling trees and all these little crisscrossed limbs, and there's only I only had 2 lanes of clear shooting lane to where I'd be able to sink it right in without an issue. And it's like, oh man, it's like I was telling my buddy Ben Klausman from Sodak Horizon, dude, this would have been a perfect video for the bow hitch and for Advanced Outdoor Technologies, because it's like I had everything all set up in the right spot where this way could have. If they gave me an opportunity, I would have been arrowed it. So just because it's like I've been practicing with the whole setup all summer long and learning the kinks about the whole process. I'm a tech guy too. I don't have my bow up behind me because it's sitting into my truck right now. Because it's like when I have an opportunity, I get out there as fast as possible. Because I try to hunt during the week, so this way there's nobody out there. Like this weekend, every spot that's public, and it had anywhere between 2 to 6 cars out there. And the thing is like when you get to these spots, you don't know where they all went off to. It's like, I don't want to ruin their hunt, but then again, I've also been able to jump up deer and it could run over that person's stand there, and all of a sudden they get arrowed. It happens. I've done the party hunting for shotgun in Minnesota for years, so you never know what's going to happen and work out in the benefit. Hopefully they'll be able to stop and go from there.
Yeah, no, I hunted with Ben up in South Dakota for antelope. Was it August? And I saw the bow hitch on his bow and setup looked pretty cool. So question for you. So when you're set up, are you in like a lock on or something like that, and you have your bow on the bow hitch, or like how do you typically use it?
So for me, I'm a ground and pound guy. I actually have a ghost blind, or if I'm just going into a new piece of property, I will go find and figure out how I can hide behind massive oaks, big trees, stuff like that, and that's how I do it. So I'm just walking right in there, and I find a stump, and I'll sit down. So I'm very low tech because sometimes I can be able to drive further in, and I just got to be paying attention. I'm always looking at shot placement or where I can hide at. So I have it literally set up on my right hand or my left hand side, in the holster, and then so this way when I'm able to grab it, so if it's sitting right here, have my hand on the riser, be able to just grab it, and then I have this AOT Advanced Outdoor Technology. It's a release holster.
I've got one.
You do. You know, Paul. So that works out pretty well. But it's able to grab it and just line up without an issue.
That'd be cool.
Oh, that's right. Because I thought that's right. You went out to there right after Ben did, or during the same time with Ben did, when they did the 2 veterans out there with Dirk Stark.
Yeah. So we did the veterans hunt out there. That was a really cool time. Enjoyed hanging out with Ben and Zach. That was on earlier. He was with us. He was one of the veterans that came. So it was cool.
Yeah, Zach. I actually had his wife Liz Ann on my podcast early this summer, and we were talking about all the things that she's got going on, and she has a really special thing for getting women outdoors and stuff like that. She says it does an amazing boost for their confidence, sociability. The husbands, they'll actually go out and pay for them to go out and do this stuff, and they always have just an absolute blast. But Tony and Liz are just 2 remarkable people. And they only live like 2 hours from me, so it's great it's amazing how small our world really is now.
Oh, I know. I mean, you're mentioning people. I'm like, oh yeah, I hunted with them. I'm in Alabama. I mean, that's kind of one of the cool things about social media. I mean, people can complain about it, but I think it's one of the coolest things, and just meeting people and get to hunt and experience, camp with different folks. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, I completely agree. And I tell people to come on over. I'm always a big proponent, come to Wisconsin, because you can get an over-the-counter buck tag for $160, and your season starts September or second week of September, and depending on what area you're in, it go all the way up until January 31st.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, so this year I'd planned really heavy on the west hunt. So I did antelope in August. I did elk in September. And I kind of left the whitetail thing like, and normally I'm a whitetail hunter. I kind of put that, on the back burner and didn't really have a whole lot of plans. So now that like November is coming, I'm looking at like all these posts and all my buddies like sending me photos and of some studs, especially this past week. I mean, it's heating up. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to make that same mistake next year.
It is quite remarkable how everything goes. Pretty much right when I always find that second week between November 7th and Veterans Day, that this week right here really pops off in Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois. Like I had my buddy Travis Rexton, he shot his buck yesterday. I was kind of hoping to tag it on that basket 6 I saw on Monday. Then Shea Butler, he makes Shea Butler knives there in Illinois. He shot his buck this weekend. So there's a lot of just monsters being shot all over the place. But it's that cold that finally came through, and it finally got cold for us here. Now what makes Alabama interesting is like, what was it? I think it was in the 80s or 90s when they were transplant whitetails from Wisconsin down there and throughout the Midwest, and they still, oddly enough, those deer that they brought down still hold true to their breeding habits from up here.
Yeah, so the different parts of the state got deer from different areas. Where I'm at, we have like the native coastal deer, which are, they're not as big. Their rut is like end of January, beginning of February. I mean, you'd be like turkey hunting and see scrapes and rubs and stuff. It's nuts. And but like the middle of the state is the Black Belt region. That's got some really nice deer, and obviously as you go north closer to Tennessee and all that, got some big studs. But yeah, I was on a lease for a while in Nebraska, and got to experience some of that kind of big deer country, and for several years. And I really, really, really miss hunting the Midwest for whitetail. There's just nothing like it.
I tell everybody, it's like if you're going to hunt the Midwest, move to Iowa and then hunt everywhere else, because Iowa is the most complicated. It takes a long time to get drawn, and the biggest thing is you got to figure out where all the quotas are. So like you have Milwaukee County, which is Decorah, where is the hometown of Expedition Archery. That's got some massive bucks all along there. Anything along the Mississippi Valley is good to go. Then you have what is it on the west side of the state? You have Rendell Eric, that monster slayer. I mean, he's been consistently putting bucks down. Then you have John Dudley, and then you got John Dudley, Johnny Mulligan, and Tim Silva. They're all in that southeastern Iowa right there. So you get all that area. So you just got to figure out what makes sense in your area to go hunting at. But then like you got Minnesota, which is $160 non-resident tag. Wisconsin, $160. Illinois, $600, and then you have Nebraska. I'm not sure what Nebraska is, but I know like a mule deer archery tag and a whitetail archery tag is like $350. I'm not sure if it's gone up or gone down, but that is still very reasonable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It used to be like 2 something or whatever, and it was just a deer tag, whatever you got into. I hunted where I was at was on the like Republican River area, so it was like on the border of Kansas and Nebraska. And
okay,
absolute freaking monsters out there.
Isn't it so amazing? And then there's a few people tagged down this weekend down there in Kansas and such. One of the guys that shoots for HHA, he finally broke his 3-year curse. But you know what? It's all about timing, man. It is a very difficult thing. Aaron Ritter that I was talking about, he shoots for VIP or Veteran Innovator Products, and he arrowed a 170 in Nebraska last week. So it's like that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I've got a buddy right now that. He drew archery in Kansas, and he went up there once. He had to come back down, take care of some family stuff, and he's like sending me pictures. He's like, "Man, I need to be up there right now." I'm like, "Dude, I'll cover for you. Whatever you need to do, like, just go, brother." Yeah.
Up there, go out hunting up in Canada?
Kansas.
Kansas, okay, all right, man, that'd be amazing to go do that. I have friends of mine that he's been on my podcast too. He goes down to Kansas. I don't know if he's going out there yet or not. It is get a new promotion. We both work for the same company, so he may have gotten a promotion where his time is more limited. He has to have a balance between, because he does also over the road stuff for LHI. So it's a interesting combination. But you are right though. It's like when the internet is such a unique Wild West when it comes down to connecting with different folks to go hunting. It's just remarkable.
Yeah. So that maybe I work too much on the Western stuff. I got to work on my Midwest whitetail connections for next year.
Oh yeah, the cool part is, man, there's a lot of people. All of us like going out there. I was talking to Eric Hansen Zach Hansen last week, and he said like when he got into hunting, he's only been hunting for 6 years,
Yeah.
and he 10x'd his experience when he moved out to Idaho. But when he got into archery and when he got into it, it's like he was blown away about how open-armed hunters really are about getting new people out there and like talking about the science and playing the windage and thermals and all this exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, if you go to the gym and you get people that want to tell you everything they know or how to do something. I think it's similar, especially in the archery world. There's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge and they want to help and coach and all those types of things. So no, it's a cool community for sure.
No, have your kids gotten hunting yet?
Yeah, so my little one, so he's 9, so I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's asked for the first time this year, she wants to go and shoot a deer. So I'm going to take her out.
Oh, dead wind.
Yeah. So it gives me an excuse to get out there. My 9-year-old is an absolute killer. He shot his first deer when he was 7. He shot a doe, and then last year he's like, "Daddy, I want to get a buck." I'm like, "All right." So this is rifle hunting right now. And so last year we went out. Alabama has a youth weekend, which was last weekend, and so he shot a doe last weekend. But last year we had, I don't know, 4 shooter bucks come out on the plot. And okay, shooter bucks here are like 110 inch deer, right? Which is, amazing deer for Alabama.
Oh yeah, no, you can't compare apples to oranges when it comes down to a Wisconsin buck down to a Alabama buck, and those are still. I've heard people like when they're up in the tree stand or in a saddle and stuff, those deer will actually look up at you and then turn around and hightail it. Up here, the whitetails up here don't do that. You could be Rendell Eric. He shot his 171 last year, only 5 feet off the ground.
Yeah, well, that was what blew my mind, because I'd hunted the South my whole life in Florida and Alabama, and I mean, our deer are cracked out, methed out deer. they're on freaking edge the whole time, and they're looking up, walking through the woods, looking for tree stands and everything. But yeah, going out to the Midwest, I was like overly cautious and overly trying to not move and be quiet and all that, and they just were especially during the rut. They don't care. They were blowing right past you. It was cool. But yeah, so my little one, he shot an 8-point opening weekend last year, and then we got on. There was a really old 7-point that actually I was trying to kill, and he was with me one weekend, and so we had the rifle with us, and we had an agreement before we went out. We're like, all right, dude, if we go out and the 7-point comes out, it's daddy's. And he's like, okay, yeah. Well, not luckily, but unfortunately, that thing came out, and he looks at me and he's like, "Dad, are you going to shoot it?" Yeah, that's the agreement, right? And he just started to like tear up a little bit. I'm like, all right, pull your rifle out. You can shoot him. So he ended up shooting 2 really nice bucks last year. So he's hooked, and he got a bow for Christmas. So as soon as we can get his poundage and consistency up, I'm gonna have him put that rifle in the safe for a bit.
That's awesome. So now with your daughter, with her being 15, and she's finally asked to go out hunting with you, is she going to go bow hunting with you, or is she going to go crossbow or gun?
No, it'll be rifle. It'll be rifle. I've got a little 243 set up, and that's what the kids shoot, and she'll use that. She's never really got into the archery thing. I think she's never asked about it or anything. I think the gateway drug will be rifle season, and we'll see how it goes, right?
That's usually how it goes. Like, I was a gun hunter all the way up until 2014. It's like I kind of got it just kind of lost all of its luster for me. So I wanted a new challenge, and that's why I switched over to archery. And now I'm going. I have the buck that you see on my Instagram right behind me here. I shot him in 2017, so I've got quite a long dry spell going right now. But I'll tell you what, though, I had a lot of occurrences last year and this year. It's just either they were too young, or the shot wasn't there. It's just something that it just comes with it. But once I got that buck, man, it's like I don't really have the buck fever anymore. I just like to being out there and being in the now because with where I hunt at here in the driftless area, I don't have service. So it's like I download my podcast when I'm going to go out there. I have one earbud in and I got the other one out going back and forth, and it's great.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I rifle hunted as well growing up, but I've always been a bow hunter. And I think it was really like whatever the opportunity was. So if, bow season opens up early, I'm going to be out there with a bow. And where we hunt, you really, really limit your success rate with a bow. So, rifle was most of growing up. And then, as you said, after a while, it just kind of loses some of the luster to it. And, now it's, that's all I take out in the woods with me is a bow.
Yeah, don't blame me. So moving on to the next thing is like, so what got you motivated to actually start doing technical videos for archery?
Yeah, so I've always been into photography, even at a young age. So my stepfather, he was, my mom's an art teacher. My stepfather at the time was an art teacher, and he was more into photography. And I remember them buying me a camera, and this was like 35 millimeter like film. You actually would go in a dark room, produce.
Yeah, we're that old. Yes, I get it. Yeah, that's my first camera too.
So he did some like high school photography classes, and he let me come to a couple of them. And you learn about, lighting, composition, and some of that. So it's always kind of like been ingrained. And whenever I was traveling a lot, I bought, my first, nice camera and started just taking like travel pictures and those types of things. And it was really around COVID when I stopped traveling for work that I'm like, all right, well, what do I take pictures of? And it's like, well, I don't know why then, but it was a light bulb went off that, man, I actually could take pictures of a lot of the cool stuff I do in the woods and all that.
That's something that's always been always a drive for me too. I always like taking pictures. I have, as well as you can tell, Instagram. I've got a lot of fun pictures that I've taken over the years and such. Should have taken the picture yesterday. I got home after hunting, got out of all my gear. I'm going to the bathroom, and I had I got pricked by one of those little little thorny bush ones like that. But it's like it came up high enough, so it caught me here, and I had a stream of blood in my beard. I had no idea it was there.
That's a wicked picture. That's a like, you could put that on your profile, with blood running down. That's wicked.
Yeah. Well, that's one of Johnny Mulligan's pictures that he posted last year. He got caught on a tree limb or something. Because if I were to take you where I was hunting at, it's like you had buckbrush all over. It's like that thick nettles and all that fun stuff. That's like I have to. I don't think it's a rosebush rock. I got a gentleman. He's actually my father-in-law in my YouTube chat. Not a rosebush. It's just I won't even say it wouldn't be a raspberry thing. It's just a weird random vine that actually grows thorns. It's quite ridiculous. But where I show you where I hunt at, it's like you have all this all over the place. I actually have to triple layer my pants so this way then it's like when those thorns come through, I can plow through it because otherwise they'll get down there. I've taken off my pants and I got blood all over the place because it just grazes all over my thighs. The worst one's like you have to really be thoughtful on what you're going to wear for your top layer, because going through some of this, I don't since I go through some very thick stuff to get after some bucks, I don't want to buy Sitka gear or any of that stuff because that's $200-300 for one coat. So I'm still rocking some old scent blocker stuff from a few years ago. Like Scent Blocker has a distribution center up in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. And if you hit their garage sales, it's like the first weekend of October, you can get some stupid deals on they're swapping from that year, the current year to the new year stuff, and it's just amazing. So I just use that stuff because it's like it still works. It still keeps me warm. I get to go from there. The only thing now is I've upgraded to getting heated socks and a heated vest and hot hands. So I tend to. I've just when you spend that much time out in the wilderness, that stuff doubles. It's worth the investment.
No, definitely. I mean, obviously, anybody who looks at my profile knows I love gear more than anybody else. So when it's that thick, I mean, you've got to be like pretty mindful of like what you shoot. Like when you do kill, like you're getting through or to get it out. I mean, you're dealing with some heavy stuff, right?
Oh man, it's a pain in the butt because it's like because in the back of your mind it's like how far back am I? How high in the elevation am I? Do I want to lug the son of a gun all the way out or not? And it's like,
Right.
but if you're all the way back, that's where you're gonna find your biggest bucks. It's like they're gonna be in the shit that nobody wants to deal with, and that's where it's all at. And the great part is like I have a good network of friends out here. It's like, well, if somebody shoots something, it's like just give me a call. I have a buddy of mine that his name is Ryan Woodhouse, and him and I went and shot the Beast Mode Archery games, and that was a bond made in blood, sweat, and tears, because we started zero elevation, go up to 6,000, and come back down. And that's uphill and then downhill. So it was definitely a trial of patience. But then it's like I shot a doe here back in October. I shot her front forward, and so I didn't. I put it where where I wanted to go. But I think that it's just how the arrow traveled, it moved forward and hit the little dead spot in the front, right above the right front of the heart there. And so he came out and he helped me look for her. And so every time I see him, it's like, hey, dude, let me know if you get something. I will be out there to help you out, because he just got done with was it appendix surgery. He had some surgery. Gallbladder. There it is. So it's like, well, I will help you drag it out. Will you just carry your bow? Because we were out there, like when I shot my doe, we tracked her for 300 yards, and we were all going downhill, tons of blood everywhere, and then she goes across this creek/pond, and then we lost her at this open field, and that's the worst thing you can have, because a deer out here, like well anywhere, if they're getting that dead sprint stuff like that, it'll pack that blood in there, and you get nothing else. And we brought another guy in, help us look. We were out there until about 10:30, 11, and we just kind of gave up. So my wife and I went out Sunday morning, and then it's like for S&Gs, I decided to go uphill, because like, well, why would an injured animal go uphill? We figured it would go dart back and go up. Yeah. Where it once was, or bed down someplace close. Yeah. And found it 80 yards uphill. And then it's like I tracked it all the way to the road, and it's like she ran into another property and up the bluffs. So it's like, well, she's going to survive. So it's just one of those things where you can practice all season long, and something left field can happen to you. You just don't know.
That's bow hunting, and it's funny. I was just talking to another guy. He's in Ohio right before this, and we're just talking about some of the trials and tribulations of archery hunting. And I started bow hunting in my middle school, high school, and made a bunch of stupid mistakes then, which I've learned try not to do. They still happen from time to time, right? But a lot of them are like learning it in their late 20s and 30s, and like they're really getting down on themselves. And I'm like, guys, this is part of the experience, and part of how you take that situation, you get better from it. But it happens.
Yeah, you don't lose until you decide to quit, and that's when you hang up your bow and never go back after. Man, I love it. It's a great way to deal with your stresses from work, stress from society. Like, and I found, like, with working with HHA USA, the veterans that participate in this, they come out like finding a whole new family. They feel themselves reinvigorated. Listening to some of the stories from Chris, that he got one of the veterans who was talking about that was invited on a turkey hunt, and if he didn't go on the turkey hunt, he was going to bite the bullet that day.
Oh wow, yeah,
yeah, and it's amazing how like something like that will be so profound and change their entire perspective.
No, I think that is absolutely awesome, and I'd agree. I mean, the outlet that you get. Again, it just takes you back to human nature. And I think there's something settling and satisfying, about it. And, in a lot of cases, with veterans that, have served and have PTSD and those types of things, like it takes a piece of you away. There's pieces of you that get taken away through experiences. And I think that getting back in the outdoors and getting back into communities and socializing with other people, that starts to replace and give back what some of those experiences took away.
I think so. I think this is why a lot of folks get back into it, and it's great that people do, because it doesn't matter if you've served in the military, or if you're a police officer, EMS, or even just a guy in the street. And we all have different traumatic instances that we don't know how to deal with. Like when when I was going through and recovering, like when I was dealing with my addictions, was one of the loss of my son 20 years ago now. I went the wrong direction. And then it's like, then I fell back in love with paintball, where I was playing it like every single week. But it's that physical exertion, the camaraderie around it, and getting yourself out of your own headspace.
Yeah, no, it's fulfillment you get out of it. And, I think that's too, my goal with the kids is keep them busy, especially my son, who has more energy than anyone I've ever met, is to keep him, in a direction, in a kind of a healthy direction in the woods and outdoors. I'd rather invest in whatever he needs to be in the woods, rather than the opposite. So.
That's the thing that I've seen that has been a downside for, like, when kids go into it. I don't know if you ever heard of this book. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It came out in like 2003. It's been around. It's New York bestseller. But what it is, it talks about the breakdown of how boys are interacting, like when they go from home to preschool to first to third, middle school and high school. They are all inundated with a lot of feminine energy, and a lot of that feminine energy, it tends, they want to suppress it, or they want to get put on Adderall. Because we're kids from the '90s, so we had Adderall and was it legalized methamphetamines or cocaine and stuff like that. Now we have Adderall and stuff like that. And it's like, I think we've lost the aspect for boys, because boys are rambunctious. They learn through doing. They scrape their knees, they break their bones, stuff like that. But that's how they do it now. How you handle a young boy going from being at home and then going to school and stuff like that, or if you're lucky enough to be able to homeschool, that's a real way to get an ROI or investment, is being able to do that. But it just, the kids have so much energy, but they don't have a chance to get rid of it. Like they're where we've begun the programming of them becoming employees. They have an 8-hour day, they get 2 breaks and a lunch. If you notice that, that's not how school should be done. School should be like, I know Europe has adopted, where they purposely have brought back outdoor activities and they spend hours outside instead of just a few minutes. And I think that's what really will change the whole acronym. I mean, that's why we've kind of fallen from being top of our education system. Now we're in the mid-50s. We're getting lower than that now. I mean, hell, the military reduced their academic standards because they were getting too dumb of students to come in.
Wow. Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. So I worked for 2 years in Finland, who has one of the best education systems in the world. And so our kids, when we were there, one was 2 and one was 8. And they spent, I mean, and the weather, keep in mind, the weather in Finland, if you drew, or if you look at the latitude line, it's Alaska, right? The weather is never optimal. It's always cold. It's summertime, it's nice, but most of the time it's cold, it's rainy, it's snowy, and it just didn't matter. I mean, the Finns kind of taught us that there's no bad weather, just bad gear. And those kids would be outside. I mean, they took them outside and they would do like exploratory type of field trip type things, and let the kids kind of experience life a little bit. It was amazing. We were scared because we saw our little 2-year-old walking down, a city sidewalk on a little rope, and there's cars going by and everything else. And the amount of trust the adults would put into the kids just to do the right things and kind of experience things was amazing. And that kind of opened our minds to like, wow, we really baby our kids sometimes, I think, in the US. What I see now with just in school and society, that like these kids are much more capable than we give them credit for. Let them experience things. Let them, go, like you said, go get a bump or a bruise or a scratch. And I think as long as they're doing dangerous things and under supervision, I think that's the best way of learning.
That's a really good sentiment there. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about that, like watching kids doing things dangerously, but with carefully. It's like you gotta let them do that. It's like That's how I learned, and that's how I was very lucky growing up that my parents were able to get a small acreage out in the forest or out in the woods, and then at the time there's major changes, but when my mom and my dad were still married together, we lived out in the country. But I think that is a very positive environment for boys and girls to be in, because it's like I grew up with an imagination.
Absolutely.
And these kids these nowadays, like they need instruction manuals. They need to like They need to be told how to have fun, and it's just I've seen that with my daughter. It's like I give her some Legos or some Connects, and she needs instructions.
Yeah, where's the YouTube video?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like I treat YouTube as a reward for her to do it because it's like I don't want her being glued to it and stuff like that. And early this summer, she has a tablet that her parents, her mom or stepdad got her and stuff like that. And day one, she got it taken away. She's like, she hopped on TikTok and started talking to people. And like, this is where this is where the grooming conversation comes in. This is where pedophiles come into play. Like this type of conversation. Like when we were growing up in the 90s, this doesn't happen. Yeah. Now it's like, they're everywhere. And it's like, when you look at all the states per capita, like Wisconsin is number 5 per capita. I think we have like something like 500 per 100,000 residents. That's how many pedophiles we have. Yeah. And we have several. And then you go out to Oregon. It's like almost 700 per 100,000. It's even worse. And it's like, man, we need to treat these like dogs. It's like we need to put them down and put them on sleep. It's pretty easy to do some very mean things and look the other way.
Now we live like where we're at. It's kind of like I think one of the last little strongholds that we have of what used to be. We have a group of friends, and our kids go play at the creek. They go fishing. They go hunting and. I was out fishing with a friend of mine, and he was watching my son on the boat, and we're out pretty far deep sea fishing, and he's just watching my little 8-year-old at the time run around on the boat, and he's casting and tying knots and whatever, and he's like, "Damn, Stuart, your boy's gonna be all right." 100%, man.
Oh, that is so true. Because it's like if you're able to get them into those techniques and those trainings and stuff like that, they're just going to be able to go for it. Like, and what I keep on, I tell guys is like if you have a daughter, stuff like you get her in the outdoors and she's big in the outdoors, that ring gets bigger and her collection of firearms get bigger. Because like my wife hunts, she fishes, and I asked her, "What do you want for a wedding ring?" It's like, and she wants, "I want a gun." It's like, all right, what gun do you want? It's like, pick any one you want. Price, there's no price limit on it. She went with a SIG P320 because she was working at Gander Mountain at the time, and she fell in love with it. Fits her hand. She shoots like a champ with it. So I was like, done, son. That was the best. That's the best investment because not only she can sell it, she can pawn it, and she can provide with it.
Yeah, that's funny. So my wife, very outdoorsy too. She loves to fish, and in fact, she was 6 months pregnant with my son. One of the first times I took her hunting, and, and she's out there, waddling around with it, and absolutely loves it. She shoots bow and can shoot really, really well. So very blessed. It's nice to be able to marry your best friend to be able to go out and do that stuff. And I got my wife a magnifier, a 4X magnifier, and her confidence is through the roof. She's dropping arrows at 60 yards now. It's just like, it's fucking awesome. Heck yeah, no, that's cool. I think having a partner that supports the outdoors is and all of our endeavors. It takes definitely a strong woman because I'm gone or. I'm gone for work and then I'm gone for hunting, and she's can't be more encouraging to go do those things because she understands those things, and I think that's important.
That is 100%. This is kind of off topic here, but I've noticed that like if you like, I'm a fire sign, I'm a Sagittarius, and my wife is a Gemini, and she's a wind one. So it's like that. It's weird in how that personality trait goes hand in hand. Because I'm like a very brunt, like let's get this done, let's go after it. Like I respect loyalty, I respect people that say what they're going to do and get it done. And then it's like, and then she just kind of like she pushes me to do it. It's like, I mean, look at I got camera, I have all this stuff right here, I got tons of it's just remarkable. And plus on top of that too, for Christmas she's buying me a truck, and so it's like it's just kind of like, it was one of those things where it's like the need and meet came at the right time of Christmas time. So it's like, let's call it a Christmas gift. I'm not going to argue with that logic.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we're having our anniversary November 17th, and she accidentally sent me a text that she shouldn't have, in an innocent way. But it was so when I was out west, I went out there with my Glock 23, for bears or whatever, which is a 40, right? And the guide out there was like, "Yeah, that's cute, but he's got like a G20, 10 mil," and he's like, "This is what we carry." So I came back, told my wife about it, and she remembered it, and I have a G20 on the way. So
Oh, that's fantastic. I sent my buddy, I don't remember what state it was, but there was a guy that you had an X10 from, because SIG just released a updated profile model of their X10 or their 10 millimeter, and I sent him pictures like, look at this. It's like he shot this massive 4x4 or 5x5 elk and with a 10 millimeter.
wow, yeah,
Yeah, it's a legal caliber out there to use. It's like just go for it, man.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it's a brute of a caliber. So
Oh yeah, 240 some grains and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. I carry like rut holsters. They're based out of Colorado, and I got their holster that has it's 2-position Molly holster. I can either go underneath my bino hunters or I can go horizontal with it. And I've been carrying everywhere I go because around here in Wisconsin we have bears, and so what I carry in that it's a 17 plus 147 grain full metal jackets. It's like I need to put as many holes as possible, and so the holster though, when I was tracking that deer. I mean, I was crouching over, like literally my chest was touching my knees to try to get underneath and track where the blood was, and going up and down the tree, going up and down tree stands. Like I didn't have to worry about it banging up against it. It's a shameless plug, but I'm a gear guy too. So,
yeah.
but it's a well designed holster. I got it in the, he did a custom. Chase did a custom design for me. I put my logo on it, man. It is something else. And I also rock T and K hunting gear. So these guys, retired police, ex-military, badass gear and stuff like that, all made in America and stuff like that. A little spendy, but it's like it's made in America. It's not like assembled in America like some of them, but it's just one of those things where like that high quality gear really shines when you're in stressful scenarios. And like that's something that puts in the back of my mind, because I was up hunting up in New Eau Claire. And the guy, but I was telling him, like, I knew there was bear up in the area, but he was like, yeah, we have a boar and we have a sow, and like, and sure enough, like where I put up my trail cam, about a week later, Wednesday night, here comes a sow and 2 cubs. It's like, oh boy.
There you go. Right.
Luckily, I wasn't hunting that stand. I was only hunting the stand like 80 yards just to the south of that stand. It's like, wow, this is tough. This is tough. This is tight stuff here.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I've seen the rut holsters. I guess holster's the next thing. I want to, like you said, it goes, I guess, under your bino harness. I got like a marsupial harness. So
yeah, they have a spot there for underneath it.
Yeah. So I'll have to look into that. I've got Colorado planned already for next year, so I'll be back out for sure.
Oh, definitely. Are you doing a elk hunt or pronghorn or mule deer?
Yeah, so right now I've got elk nailed down. I'd love to do another pronghorn hunt, but have not nailed that down yet. So, but yeah, I'll be out there a couple times.
Very cool, man. So definitely check out those guys out there. And what I liked about him is that I have an X5 Legion from SIG, and it's not a very popular caliber to carry outside of competition shooting, because that's their out of the box go-to gun for competition shooters. But it shoots so nice. Comes with a 14 or a 12-pound spring. You can swap in and out. It's won 2 world championships, so it's a very, very high efficient firearm. You just got to get used to that slap, or it's a tool that you have to. It's either you like them or you don't like them. Like cause now are you a Glock guy through and through, or are you just like whatever tool fits the best in your hand?
Honestly, so I used to shoot Walther. I had a SIG. Once I moved to Glock, it's not that they feel great, overly great, or they were just super reliable once I got used to the trigger, which I'm not that big of a fan of, to be honest with you. It was hard for me to transition between different firearms, so I just now have all Glocks because the triggers are all the same trigger. So
it makes perfect sense. I'm the same way too. Like we have 2 SIGs. We have this Smith & Wesson. I have a little Browning 222. So it's like I got big hands. So it's like for me, I kind of have to play in perspective where my trigger lands and stuff. I shoot a lot, and so I've kind of got trained out of like how to have to worry about the slap and stuff. And I put that process of when I grab the grip, when I grab the pistol, place my trigger on it and pull it and stuff like that. It's kind of like when you with your shot placement with your arrow, stuff like you go through the whole sequence, and when you're ready, when you're all lined up, you're ready to rock and roll. Because I was talking to my buddy that owns the Toxon App, and we were talking like, how much time do you actually spend looking through your peep? It's like that's actually the last thing I even put in my mind. It's like first goes the arrow, then it goes my release, and then I bring it back, get that little anchor spot right here, and then I bring my my eye in, and then it's like, then I once I'm leveled out, pull that trigger, send it.
Yeah. No, I've got, a few different bows, and I'm meticulous. They're all have to be set up the exact same way, same peep, same distance with the sight, how far I'm running the sight out, etc. I like it all the same.
Oh, yeah, that's why everything I shoot was HHA. I have a True Fire, True Ball, and a Hot Shot. And now I actually have a new Expedition bow. So it's same draw, same everything, like same rest. I'll be shooting the PS 23s and stuff like that. They're going to go with the thicker shafts for 3D archery here after I'm done hunting. So I don't know if I'm gonna, if I don't get my buck, I'm gonna be hunting into January. So or at least fill some tags and such. And then because right now we got gun season comes up this weekend, so it's rifle season. It goes from this weekend all the way until Thanksgiving. Then Thanksgiving, and then it comes my birthday, and then that'll be muzzleloader, and then we have a couple holiday hunts and stuff like that. So again, I have to pick and choose where I'm gonna go for bow hunting, but I'll figure it all out. Hopefully, I can connect on a doe, and if not, I'll eat tag soup. I'm humble enough for it. I got the chance to go out there hunt and stuff like that. Had opportunities, but it's just like I'd either, like I said, too young, or I had one doe, beautiful doe, but perfect to take, but she had a fawn in tow.
Yeah,
and then.
We've got every doe has a fawn. That was the hard time, trying to get my son on which one is, and they're all twins. I mean, they
no kidding.
They had a phenomenal year in terms of what they bred. I mean, we had probably 15 deer out, and probably 6 fawns, most of them twins.
Man, that is impressive, though. It's like, but then again, in the back of your mind, it's like she is that doe. Those does are known to go into estrus twice. It's like I don't pull her off for that because that's guaranteed reproduction. So that tells me you have good food, you have good shelter, and you have water. And then it's like, and if you have that pretty much that trifecta, you're gonna go like my buddy Brian Austin. He's the creator of Beast Mode. He actually was out hunting here 2 weeks ago, up in the saddle, and he all of a sudden here's this parade of leaves just kicking over. It was a sow with 5 cubs.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like she is what they call a super sow, and it's like that is like a crazy thing to achieve in the wild, especially when boars are known to be cannibalistic.
Absolutely. I'm surprised hadn't had 1 or 2 gone.
That's my thought too. So they do exist here in Wisconsin, and they become like a prize animal to maintain their integrity because it's like it is a taboo thing to hunt said animal.
Right. Sure.
It's kind of like with albinos and stuff like that. And that's where albinos are one of those things that are rare and stuff like that too. And people think that it's like, oh, it's a rare, majestic animal. It's like, no, they're the bottom rung of poor genetics.
Yeah, it's the recessive of the recessive gene.
Yeah, that's one we want to shoot, but it's like hunters that I've talked to, they'll never shoot a true albino, but they'll shoot a piebald or they'll shoot a white deer, and so they'll all have clear characteristics that can pay attention. Because if you're going to see if I see a white deer, I'm going to be looking at its nose and its eyes. Are they pink? Yeah. Or are they colored? Because it's like I will gladly drop one. Like Chris Ham actually had one on his pop. He has I'm not sure if it's a piebald or if it's just a white deer. Or it could be albino. The camera that he had on it doesn't really give really good definitive details of it. But it's like that's pretty cool to actually see that on your property because it's always like you could call it a good omen or it's that spiritual realm because it's like a lot of it goes back into the superstition of a white animal. It's like it's a spirit animal. You don't want to touch it. It's like because it can not necessarily will bring bad juju, but it's like in your mind though. What you like Murphy's Law. It's like if you was it Murphy's Law? There's another another thought process on it, where it's another law of things, where if you dream your worst things to happen, you're going to have that happen to you. Like whether it be like divorce or car accident or DUI or random things like that. If you keep, that's why it's like
Law of attraction or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And plus, your mind casts spells. So if you're constantly telling yourselves this right here, you're eventually your mind is going to make it happen.
And I'll tell you what, positive thinking and your thoughts and what you put in your head, I think absolutely can affect you.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. So now, I was going to go with it because I was going to ask you some questions regarding your photography, but we've touched upon that. But what has been some of your struggles, or what have you used to actually produce some of your videos? Because your videos are very clean, your transitions are great. You use fitting music for them. So what were some of the steps you took to get where you're at today with some of your videos? Because they're doing 1,000, 35,000 views per videos, which is impressive.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I would say first off was a lot of YouTube watching prior. So I think, there's a lot of really good examples out there of what's clean, what's attractive, what's not. And then from there, it was, I already had kind of a good idea in terms of lighting and photography and tried to kind of transition over into video and that type of thing. And I have to say the video piece to me takes a ton more work than I ever thought in terms of trying to edit and get things to flow. So, from there it's getting in, and I'm kind of I don't really wait for instruction or anything. I'm more of jump in and do it and trial by it, fire type of thing. And, so I had, I think a program on my Mac that I used to edit the first couple, and then did a little more research and, use, I think Adobe Rush or Rush Premiere or something like that.
Premiere is I don't use it, but I know people that use it. That's what it is. The best way to go is that particular Premiere, because it's easier to. It does have a steep learning curve because Adobe tends to overcomplicate something that shouldn't be that complicated, and it's like you need a big screen, because I've worked in it, and it's like your space gets small real fast, especially when you're putting different layers in there. Like trying to do a 10-second clip for our OD podcast takes about an average like 40 minutes to do one clip, and that's 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I mean, sometimes my wife is like, what the hell are you doing in there? And it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to put together, a few more minutes of a video. But yeah, I think it's just getting in and playing it. And then, I don't put something out unless I feel good about it, is the other thing. I mean, you could throw together a crappy video, and there's plenty out there to watch and probably get it done a lot quicker. But I just try to make it clean. And you have a good point with like Adobe trying to make things complicated or complex. I try to make it as simple as possible. I don't have a million different layers. I don't, try to do anything too fancy, but it's really keep it simple. The other thing I try to do is the speaking parts that I do on my YouTube is take it in one shot. I don't like to break up and have to patch together certain things, which is a lot of pressure whenever you're doing it. But it makes the whole editing process a lot faster. So
that's 100% true. With at least with audio, when I do my podcast, I don't edit anything. I will go through and I'll amplify the audio, so this way then it's like my forethought is like when I put together a podcast, which is changed from my friend John Dove. It's like we were talking about elk hunting. I told him I'm going to try something new with your podcast, and because my idea is like I want people to be able to listen to the podcast over the roar of a diesel engine, whether it be a 6.2 liter diesel or a semi, because that's what I want to put because if you do that, if you have that type of focus in it, headset, Bluetooth audio, or car,
yeah,
you already got that in the bag.
Yeah, I think that's the audio was the biggest learning curve I have, is because I just used whatever was on the camera the first time, and I'm like, holy moly, that sounds like crap. Or you can't hear it, and then like you try to edit it up and bring up what you can, and then all you're doing is like enhancing crappy audio. So invested in some mics and stuff, and even for podcasts now that I've started doing, I bought an actual mic, and I think that's super important because you could have the best looking video and then just junk audio and you can't use any of it.
Exactly right. That's why, like, why I did all the due diligence with Zoom, because that's why I told you, like, turn your original sound for musicians on, because then you can, it produces a better quality audio. I use a Canon EOS M200 for my video, which is YouTube translates into 720p, but I have my S21 Ultra for my Instagram. So it's like all these different things where, like, you really put a lot of forethought when you're actually going to be investing $1,000 into a camera.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I just went to a full frame camera. It's sitting right here, but I went with Sony A7 IV, and I didn't.
That's a good camera.
I didn't realize all the coolness that it has. I mean, even when we were getting set up here, you're like, oh yeah, you can stream from there and all that. And I've seen the setting, I've just never used it. So
to YouTube
next time, yeah, exactly.
But that's because like right now you're using whatever camera you have on there, so like it's going to actually pay for itself in the end. But if you really want to get in some fun cameras, check out those Blackmagics, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that 6K is something else. But you can't. It doesn't really anything above 4K on YouTube. It's like you're really not getting anything out of it. But if you're really, it's like that's where we're going to be heading after 4K is that 6K, and it's something pretty. But boy, those cameras are $6,000 in the low end.
Well, that you probably need even this camera. Whenever I upgraded, like my Mac, I have a MacBook Pro. It's not that old, but like I can tell it's working a lot harder than it used to. So I imagine it's 6K and stuff. It's probably just massive file sizes.
Oh, definitely. You're gonna have to go actually spend some time and like get a at least 2 or 3 terabyte hard drive, and then you're gonna have to really pay attention to how much RAM your motherboard can get. It's gonna come down to customizing your own desktop for it, because laptops you can get away with some of the Alienware stuff, but your real customization is in a PC.
Yeah, for sure. Man, you're a techie just like me.
Oh, I my days got into computer games back in '97, so I've been inside the guts of a computer for almost 30 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've built my fair shares of computers. I've had gone through several laptops, learning what I can and can't get away with and stuff like that. Now it's like I have to upgrade my hard drives, because when I'm rendering down even audio, a file can get up to almost during the process of it. The file can get to almost 20 gigs, and it's like that can eat. I have a 250. No, I have 150 gig hard drive in my laptop, and that's not enough because of some of these files that are like I don't ever put a time limit on it because these are conversations, not interviews. So I've had like Paul Otten from Advanced Outdoor Technologies, 3-hour long podcast. I had the methodical. If you want to learn somebody how to learn how to write from, is Al Quackenbush. That guy knows how to write, but he also knows how to talk. He does I just asked him questions about doing loading and reloading for firearms, stuff like that, and we did a 3-hour podcast, and we only got through like not even half of it, for considering how much more you can go into it. And he did a really good job of hitting a lot of things. So we just got to do a part 2, which is making everything hit up, because he's been traveling for hunting. He's been doing great. I mean, that guy, he's like, you go to his blog, the SoCal Bow Hunter, and he's been writing for 15 years. He gets invitations to go to SHOT Show now. So and almost I'm not sure if it's all expense paid, but he gets to spend the entire week out there in Las Vegas at SHOT Show. Man,
goals.
Oh, you telling me, man? It's like, but he's putting the time for it. Very good writer and stuff like that. He even gave Aaron Ritter a breakdown, like on how to accept was a paper, so like, because he said try to keep it around 1,000 words or so for the conversation for it, because the Limitless Outdoors is a grant program that what it does is it basically sets up a hunter with an entire setup.
Nice.
And then they got other sponsors to donate stuff, and so for the grant though, it's like it doesn't matter if you're a hunter or EMS. It's like anybody that has lost a limb qualifies for it.
That's cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely beautiful, and it's like they started it last year, and so this year they're going to start taking applications here starting January, because the whole idea is that they want to get get the winner picked out, get them the bow, get them to a shop, get everything all customized, and get them hunting or get them shooting, get them prepared for a hunt that fall. Because I think that he's probably working with some folks that are going to be able to get that winner on hunts, whether it be a whitetail or elk or mule deer, whatever somebody's willing to donate to be able to get that hunter and get that person into the outdoors.
Man, see, that's where I think, like hearing that's awesome. Because I think, a lot of times, you have somebody set up with a bow or a rifle or whatever, and you give them gear and they're like, okay, then what? Like getting out and teaching them. And, there's some cool organizations. I think Nodens I've seen does some pretty cool stuff out West and all that, teaching okay, how do you find, how do you locate? Okay. How do you kill? Okay. Once you kill, okay, how do you field dress it? So going through the whole process, I mean, there's just so much that has to be done, and taking them through the experience to me is probably the most important thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because especially when you're shooting, let's say we'll use whitetail just because it's what we have a common knowledge for. So when it comes down to removing the scent glands out of the joints, stuff like that, and out of the meats, out of the quads, but also when you shoot a harvest a buck, you have to make sure you don't cut the sack where the urine's at. If you do that, you can ruin your meat. And then also breaking their pelvic bone, opening that up and stuff like that, cutting through that. So some people could forget about that. Then you got to pull out the intestines to make sure you remove all of the feces that it comes through. And then also preparing them for a gut shot, like how nasty it smells. For some odd reason, I can gut a gut shot, any animal, but when it comes down to vomit, I'm out. I can't do vomit. I cannot do vomit.
Dude, my wife says the same thing. She's like, okay, so we've got a dog. Okay, the dog throws up or something, and I'm over there just like, I can't deal with it. I'm like, gagging, and she's like, so you'll sit there and you'll clean an 800-pound animal with no problem, but this little bit of puke on the floor bothers you. Like, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No brainer. Jeff says so too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's a mind messer. You don't. It's something with the nasal and then that your trauma experience in your back of your mind. I think that's why we're men flourish in some aspects, where women first flourish in other ones. Like my wife, when my daughter gets sick, she'll handle the vomit stuff like that. But when my daughter was changing all the diapers, cleaning a messy diaper was not a big deal. It's like, to me, it's like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I've cleaned gut shot deer, and it's like this is a walk in the park.
Yeah. So funny story. So my wife was out of town, and I think the dog threw up or something happened that was really gross. And she wasn't there to help, and I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to do this. So I'm looking around. I go out in the garage, and so my wife and I got into free diving, like spearfishing down here.
Oh, awesome!
And so I went outside and got my mask and snorkel, and came in and took a picture and had the bag and gloves. And all right, I'm ready for war now.
Ready for war! Let's go!
That's the only way I can do it, man.
Oh, I'm right there with you. So I didn't know you got into free diving spearfishing. Dude, tell me about that, because I've seen the episode on Meat Eater, though, that the last year's season when they're out in Hawaii. It's that is some cool shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we've got an offshore boat, and we go fishing and stuff like that. Right here, snapper fishing and all that around.
Yeah.
Is pretty popular. But not too far from here is a really cool freediving school, and they take people out and stuff. So my wife and I went and took a weekend, and you don't have to go get certified or anything like that, because there's no tanks or anything, but there is a high degree of, things that can go wrong. So there's some safety aspects and all. And if you want to dive with them or go to the Bahamas and dive with a guide or whoever, you typically have to have at least a class 1 freediving certification. So she and I went and did that. And that was another cool thing. My wife is such a gamer, man. She went and, got in the Gulf with me. And I mean, there's freaking sharks and stuff. I remember, so you go down, class 1 is, you're down, I don't know, I think it's 70 feet or something like that, which is pretty far.
Oh yeah, that's a lot. That's deep enough for bad things to happen.
Oh, absolutely. So how they certify it is you have to go, all the way down, and there's a weight at the bottom. They kind of have a float at the top of the water and a weight at the bottom, and the instructor's kind of watching you and following you all the way down. And I remember when I went down on my first dive, there's a bull shark just circling around the weight down there.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so when I came back up, I didn't tell my wife or anything until we like got back to, back to shore and all that. And I was like, did you see that bull shark down there? And she's like, what? No. But yeah, it's just it didn't mess with me, but one of the cool things.
Yeah, because bull sharks are what was the movie based off for Jaws. I mean, that's what really started the whole thing and such. And we've actually had bull sharks make it as far north as Illinois, the Illinois River.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know they'll go into fresh water, and they sure will. They are tough and mean. Not really something you want to mess with.
Oh, exactly. Did you see? I don't know if you saw this, but it was it July or was it June or it was sometime in the summer? But there was a photograph taken, an aerial shot of this large black blob off the coast of Brazil or over by Argentina and stuff like that, and it was just a big old flurry of fish and stuff like that. Well, as they zoomed in, they found a 70-foot megalodon literally right next to it.
Holy cow! No, I didn't know it.
Yeah, it's made its appearance several times all throughout the interwebs.
That is huge. Yeah, the closest thing we have is of something like that is, so in the summertime, we have a lot of tourists come down to Pensacola Beach, Orange Beach, Destin, stuff like that, and we've got really white sand, so from the sky you can really see through the water. It's pretty clear, and you'll see people out there. This probably isn't good for tourism in that area, but they'll do a flyover, and you'll see the sharks like towards the drop off, just feet away from people, and sometimes it happens, but again, I've lived most of my life down here, never really had an encounter, but it certainly does happen.
Oh, I bet it does. It doesn't surprise me, but as of starting to dive into the cryptoid aspect of the ocean and such, because we don't know what's all in there. We know more about space than we knew about in there. But I was looking at there's some footage from Australia back around 2003, and there was a blue humpback whale, and there was a section about 8 meters long missing of its tailbone. So you got the tail, and that bone right behind it, gone. Yeah, it's there's nothing out there right now that's that big that we know of. It's like, so they're lying to us that the megalodon doesn't. It's kind of like mountain lions being in Iowa or Wisconsin or Minnesota.
Yeah, now there's some gnarly stuff down there for sure. I mean, and it's the thing, like when you free dive and all that, like the first layer of the water is the visibility where we're at is not very good. Visibility doesn't really open up until you get down a bit, and your mind will play a million tricks on you and get inside of your head, and you have to like mentally just block a lot of that out of what could or what might be down there and all. But
completely understand that, man. We have the same thing up here too. It's like with the black bears around here, you can think anything could be a black bear just because of how it all looks like that. And the thing is, when it comes down to black bears, they're just as scared of you as we are of it. And it's like they could be walking right by you and they won't even know. It's like kind of like that sow and her 5 cubs. She had no idea my buddy was only 40 yards up, 20 feet up in the tree.
Yeah. No, so I had a bear tag when I was out in Colorado, and a lot of bear there as well. A lot on video or film, and never came in. And a lot of it really is the wind. If the wind's wrong or they smell you, I mean, they're gone. But you certainly don't want to get by any cubs.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to ask you for questions, because I had 4 of my friends all get tags, and like their kids got tags too. So I have a buddy of mine's been on my podcast, Ryan Nordahl. Him and his 2 boys got tags. They weren't successful. My buddy Seth, him and his boy got tags as well. They weren't able to put things together too as well. But it's that wind, man. That nose is so powerful.
No, absolutely. And even the guides were saying like, okay, they might come here, they might go there or whatever. And they said, if they come up, just poke them, with an arrow or something. Like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm going to get a tag.
No kidding, right? Or salvage tag, because I have no idea what the legalities of defending yourself against a bear. what constitutes being able to, what is defense and what isn't, because it's a gray area, because you could be out there shooting bears and stuff like that, and you're calling the DNR like, hey. So it's something that's a very muddy scenario, and I wouldn't want to even try to break that down over a podcast without speaking to a DNR agent to like how this should be, something like that to be handled, because you need from somebody that's from a subject matter expert on such a thing, because you don't want to be giving out advice that could potentially get them arrested or killed.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting topic too, and that as many bears as they're out there, and I wouldn't say it's a nuisance type of situation, but they did tell me, okay, if we do shoot a bear, the process that we have to go through with the bear is, there's certain rules, but they do a lot of research on any bear that you take. Even down to, they measure the nipples through this gauge type of thing. So you're not supposed to, shoot one with cubs, and they can tell basically when it had cubs or all. So, it's very regulated, and they do a lot of research on it for sure. Did you see, it wasn't too long ago, I think it was on Instagram or something, I saw like a reel of the mountain lion. Actually, there's been a couple mountain lion videos. I think, where did I see it? Maybe Joe.
I know Rogan. Yeah, Rogan had where the guy had a Glock. He's backing you up and recording and stuff like that. Like, dude, I would have both. If I was in a situation, I wouldn't be recording. But then again, who would want to believe you that? But it's like, I think at that point in time, my life is more precious than a video camera. It's like I'm gonna have both hands on that gun, ready to rock and roll.
Oh, and that mountain lion was going after him. I mean, there was no doubt about it that it wasn't just you happened upon it, it got scared and defend. No, it was
hunting him. He just happened to catch it, because out of all those predators out there, I'd rather die from a cat than anything else, because they'll go for the jugular, they'll go for the kill. Unlike bears and wolves, they'll start from your ankles up.
Yeah, they won't play with you. Like
No, exactly. But yeah, that happened. And there was, I think they're both in Colorado, or at least someplace out west. Then you had those guys from Wyoming that had a bear tackle one of them, and then his other friend comes and tackle that and put it in a chokehold, and they both managed to survive. And then what was it? There was another guy that was out hiking and had a bear attack him too, and he was lucky enough that he was on the side of a cliff, and the bear went too far.
Like hit him or something? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, where it hit him, but it's like the bear had so much momentum, it went down, and he bopped it in the nose with his foot. It's like, man, there was some crazy interactions.
Yeah, and there was something not too long ago. I think teenagers were out like shed hunting, and a G bear I think it was a grizzly bear, got a hold of the kid and did a number on him, but he survived. But
wow, that's impressive that he survived, because those grizzly bears, they don't tend to let off.
Yeah, I think it was a grizzly bear, but it was certainly a bear attack, and I want to say that was maybe Montana or something like that. But
what I've seen I'm not sure if you've been paying attention, but we've seen an uptick in like Yellowstone and Custer's Park there in South Dakota, where people are kind of going up to the bigger animals, and they have this Disney point of view, and it's like these animals are live. And I've seen I don't know when it happened, but there was buffalo yeeted a guy into a tree. There was a situation, I'm not sure if it was in Yellowstone, I think it was, but there was a bull elk and stuff like that, it's a young satellite bull, and they were feeding it, and all of a sudden they stopped feeding, and then they got aggressive with them.
Yep. No, it's, like you say, the Disney point of view of nature can be really, really dangerous. A lot of these parks that, the animals are used to humans, they're comfortable with humans, and you have that barrier. Well, you don't have a barrier at that point. It gets smaller and smaller, and margin of error is obviously things can go bad really quick. Again, I think people need to spend time outdoors in nature, learning and knowing, some type of woodsmanship to some degree.
Oh, that's a very thing. That's a very pop thing that needs to be addressed. Is the woodsmanship? That's something it's a lost art, and especially in schools, because especially when it comes into biology, that is something they need to get out there and do these nature walks and stuff, because they're going to be able to learn so much from doing that instead of looking at it in a book. Because I think a lot of stuff comes down. They're always used to seeing them in zoos and such too as well. And if you really want to put some thoughts on the first piece of anti-hunting that ever came out was Bambi.
Yeah, Nah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like when that dates back to 1946. It's like, man, they've been anti-hunting, since then. It's like, geez.
Yeah, no, it's that. And I think, even, I love technology, I love gear and all that type of thing, but even again, being out west opened my eyes also to the fact that sometimes that stuff doesn't work. So what are you going to do? And I think, luckily I've got some land navigation, knowledge and experience at night. Night navigation is different than during the day. But, what happens if, your Garmin goes down, or what happens, can you use a compass? Can you shoot an azimuth somewhere? That type of thing. I think that's something I'm definitely going to teach my son.
Oh, definitely. And the cool thing is, I don't know if you're familiar with Rich Graham for Full Spectrum Warrior out of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he offered, like, I used to have another podcast called the American Sheepdog Podcast, and we actually had Rich on. We actually had his ear for about 3 hours, and he actually has a topographic map reading course. He has 3 levels for it, and it's like for those that want to learn it from a subject matter expert, and then and it's like the courses are not that expensive. It's only like, I think it's less than $200 or $300 to do Land Nav 1 and stuff like that. So that's pretty cheap. And plus you get to work with Rich Graham. That guy is still a warrior.
Yeah, I know. So I've seen his stuff. I think Aaron Snyder from Kafaru's he's doing some like Land Nav type of courses and things like that. And of course, that's out in Wyoming. But yeah, I think for a couple $100, man, that's a deal.
Oh, especially
save your life.
Oh, definitely. It was funny. I was just talking about topographic maps with a buddy of mine here in town, or up in Eau Claire, and he's very well versed in gun stuff. And someone's like, dude, it's like, what if you just take your PMags and, like, when you have them lasered and stuff like that, actually put a topographic map of where you're hunting at on that PMag. So this way, then it's like you have all that information right there. So if things go south, it's like if you have an altimeter or a compass, stuff like that, but at least you have that magazine will have that imprint on there. It's like, that's actually not a bad idea.
Dude, that's a good idea. You'd have a few mags if you hunted at large. That's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly right. Plus it's like you don't even have to worry about. Let's say you carry 3 or 4 mags with you, but they're not loaded. It's like you have those as a map on there. So it's like if you're going out hunting someplace, and it's like, and you're going to be bringing that with you, like something that at least has at least 10 or 15 rounds, something big enough where you can actually put that on there. You could be able to put some very interesting things on there to give you some pointers to how to go from there. Especially if you're. I told him, it's like, if you focus start with a small area like Wisconsin or something like that, where you're hunting at, and see how that translates to it. It's like you could probably find yourself in a situation where it's actually going to pay for itself in the end.
Yeah, because I mean, how many guys are carrying a paper map of their area?
Not very many. But the best part is the dual purpose now. So now you have a magazine that holds ammunition, and now you have a topographical map.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, or the back of your phone, or I don't know, just any. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, or shoot, we talked to Red Holsters, like, hey, dude, I need this mountain range on this holster. Can you put it on there for me? And it's like, you're getting the new G20, man. That's a long barrel. There's a lot of material there to fill in.
We could cover some land on that for sure.
Oh, definitely, man. All right, dude, man. This has been a really, really fun conversation here. What's the best ways to reach out to you, Stuart?
So probably Instagram, I'm on the most. So my handle there is at s.g.holmes. As you said earlier, getting started up on YouTube. So that's been maybe a couple months at it. So there I am ArchersNSight, and that is Archers in the letter N, sight, all one word. Go check me out. Also, shoot me a DM. I'm super approachable. Jeff will tell you.
Yes.
I respond pretty quick.
Excellent, folks. And we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for the information here, Stuart. I'm going to cut the live feed now, and then Stuart and I are actually going to sit down and have a conversation about cooking. That episode will debut on Friday, the audio version of that and the video version of it. So please tune in then. I want to give you guys some anticipation to listen to about his tasty backstrap, which I will include the recipe that he provided. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Bucks of America